the co-main for UFC 287 is Joe Patel as well. We got Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal. Now, on the money line, as of this recording, Gilbert Burns, the huge favorite, minus 520. Meanwhile, unfortunately, Jorge Masvidal is a plus 350. How are you betting this one?
Unfortunately, could depend on what side of the political spectrum you're on. As it relates to this fight, Jorge Masvidal is on a 3-fight losing streak, which followed up the 3-fight winning streak that sort of made him a star, which included the Ben Askren knee KO, the flying knee just 5 seconds into the fight, and then there was also
Legendary.
the Darren Till knockout was also there. The Nate Diaz win, which I was also there. Madison Square Garden 2019. A certain former president was in attendance for that as well. The one that's in jail. Yeah, that one. Or about to go to jail. So as it relates to Jorge Masvidal.
And he weighs 270 pounds, if you want to know which one.
Sunbelt nose tackle, as I tweeted out.
Nose tackle.
So as it relates to this fight, though, Gilbert Burns is a massive favorite. This is like a boxing fight in terms of the odds. Gilbert Burns is like a massive favorite in this, minus 520, and for good reason. Like, you saw what he did to Neil Magny in January.
Yeah, dominated him.
Somebody who likes Neil Magny a lot. Neil Magny's from Bushwick. I'm from Ridgewood, New York City. You know what I mean? Bushwick and Ridgewood right next to each other. If you're from one, you're basically from the other. But he just took him to school and submitted him in one round. That's coming off a loss against Khamzat Chimaev from I think April of 2022. So Gilbert Burns needed that win to sort of get back on track, and he got it. And I think as it relates to this fight, Jorge Masvidal has only been stopped by submission twice. He's only been knocked out twice. He's 16 losses. And I think people forget that. Like, he's actually been doing this for 20 years professionally.
Yeah, he's 38 years old.
Yeah, in mixed martial arts. He turned pro as a teenager. And he's somebody who's 35 and 16. He has 12 losses by decision. But I actually think that Gilbert Burns is going to submit him here. Jorge Masvidal is not somebody who obviously gets grounded very often. But I think that Gilbert Burns by submission, one, the price tag is good on that. It's plus 260. The books seem to think that Gilbert Burns is going to win this on points. I actually think the smart thing to do would be to ground Jorge Masvidal immediately, because the longer this fight is on the feet, more of a chance that Jorge Masvidal could get that knockout, which he's done a lot of times in mixed martial arts. And he, I'm sure, because he demonstrates this all the time, wants the fight to be standing up. Why? That'd be advantageous to him because he has a lot of power. I think Gilbert Burns is going to want to ground this one and try to submit him. Even if it's a boring fight, I think that's going to be advantageous to Gilbert Burns. So I'm leaning with Gilbert Burns, and I'm leaning by submission plus 260. But there's a world where if you bet it a certain way, you could take Gilbert Burns on points at plus 160 and by submission at plus 260 and get some good value there. If you think he's going to knock out Jorge Masvidal, which has happened a couple times in Masvidal's career, that's plus 340. That's probably the one I'm staying away from.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not betting too differently from you, actually. Masvidal hasn't won a fight in 3 years, man. He beat Nate Diaz, and that was what? By cut stoppage?
Pre-COVID.
Come on,
last time, yeah.
Jorge Masvidal.
And if you know Jorge Masvidal, I'm not going to go down this road totally again, but if you know Jorge Masvidal's politics, there's probably some symbolism into him not getting a win since COVID hit. But anyway.
I mean, thank you for cutting me off during my breakdown just to add some politics stuff in here. This is not a politician show, you know what I'm saying? So appreciate you doing that.
Okay, don't act totally apolitical just because we're doing a fight show.
I'm just saying, all right? So before you cut me off, he's 38 years old, okay? And at one point, you would have to think age has caught up to him or is catching up to him, because that last fight against Colby Covington, I thought he looked slower. And Colby Covington was able to get Masvidal on his back. Burns is better at jiu-jitsu. And actually, right now, I am going to give Burns the power edge as well. I'm going to give Burns the power edge. Masvidal, a really good striker. As Brian was saying, he's going to want this fight standing up. But I think he's so worried about the takedowns at this point because Colby Covington was putting in that work, man, and he was able to get him down to the ground. But he still has that power, nasty hooks. As for Gilbert Burns, he's actually only 2 years younger. He's 36 years old. And right now, he looks better than ever. Like you talked about Neil Magny. That fight, he dominated. He was, and it's just like, how is Gilbert Burns having like his second run now at 36 years old where he looks this good? He has the power. He's probably going to get Masvidal onto the ground. And I think that, listen, when we go back to that Hamzat Chimaev fight, Gilbert Burns was right in there. He was in that fight rolling with Chimaev. And I think we need to take a look at that as well. Take a look at what he did to Neil Magny and see that Jorge Masvidal is not the same guy anymore. And I go back to Colby Covington. I mentioned this. Colby Covington was able to get him onto the ground. That's what Gilbert Burns is going to do. He's going to be able to get him onto the ground. And I'm actually going to roll with submission. I have Gilbert Burns winning by submission plus 260. There's some good value there. And I think it might be a little bit of a boring fight. I think Jorge Masvidal might have some moments in this fight where we're like, plus 350 on the money line. If you still believe in his power, he still has it. I would say maybe sprinkle on that. But the way that Gilbert Burns has been fighting right now, hard to bet against a guy like that. So I like him by submission. It's been a minute since Jorge Masvidal has lost by submission. Like, I can't even remember. We would have to go back and look it up, but I'm going to roll with Gilbert Burns to win by submission plus 260. So Bryan and I disagreed for the first fight, but we're going to roll together on this second fight and go with that submission.
Do you think it's worth putting money on Gilbert Burns to win by points or submission?
Yeah, I do, because I think okay, here's the thing. We've seen Jorge Masvidal get knocked out before. Like, we've seen it happen. Yeah. It's a possibility. So if I'm a betting woman, and I'm going to take the bigger odds every time, right?
Minus 190 Gilbert Burns to win by submission or on points.
How about knockout?
By knockout straight up is like plus almost around 400.
Yeah, because I don't see that happening, but like I would like sprinkle on that because
now. It was 340 earlier.
I mean, after that Neil Magny fight, I don't know, man. Jorge's slowing down. We've seen him get knocked out before. So the way I'm gonna bet is submission, because just the way that Colby Covington was getting him onto the ground, man. Masvidal doesn't want to fight on the ground. He wants to fight standing up, but Gilbert Burns is going to get him onto the ground, and I think he's going to submit him. I don't think it's going to be like something crazy. I think it's going to be a little bit of a grueling fight at times, a little bit boring, but I think it's going to be sub. But I'm like curious about the knockout. Like I might sprinkle on that just because I want to throw away like $5 or something like that. You know what I mean?
I'm cheap. I don't want to throw away no fucking $5.
That's because you've had a busy, expensive month. Bryan on the new webcam.
Jesus.
Everyone comment below. Let us know, how you like that 4K.
Look, expensive month because of taxes, but that's another story for another day. It's fine because next year I'm getting taxes. Next year I'm getting my what?
Still gotta make my taxes.
Oh, we're not gonna put that on the air.
No, they're due at the end of the month in Canada, so I'm good.
You have until April 30th.
Mm-hmm.
We have until the 18th.
Oh, well, you better get on. Oh, you already made yours, right?
Yeah. No, I just got to send the payment. It's all good. IRS, don't audit me. None of that shit. We're all good.
I sent it into my accountant. I'm just waiting to sign the papers and pay. But
Great.
Nonetheless, here at the Mandatory, we want to know how you're going to bet on this fight. Do you still believe in Jorge Masvidal's power, or are you rolling with Gilbert Burns? Let us know. Drop some comments below. Also, if you like the content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and follow us on our social media channels at TheMandatory TKO.
And even if you don't like, comment, subscribe, do all that shit. Even if you don't like the channel, even if you hate my fucking face or whatever the case may be, I don't care. Just like the channel, subscribe, and do all that good stuff. We would like your support, and go back and forth with us. Just be respectful, and no questionable DMs, please.
Yes, of course. None of that. Nonetheless, though, thank you so much for rocking with us, and we'll be back with some more content soon.